Kalau bisa juga semua bantu record ya. Halo, Mas Giri. Co-host mulai 5 menit sebelum masukin orang ya.
Recording in progress.
Good afternoon, students of our Summer Course 2021. My name is Grace Ginting. Today, I will be the moderator for this session. Before I start, please turn on the camera since the attendance will be monitored through the screen's appearance. For this session, we will have 2/3 PIC. They are Mega and Irud. And if there is any problem, something you may communicate it to the PIC1. And please look for them into the attendance list. And now we are going to have session with a title Gender Equality in International Relations. This session will be delivered by Ms. Nara Masista. And as we know, Ms. Nara is one of the famous diplomats in Indonesia and care about gender equality, conflict, and peace. First thing first, I will read Ms. Nara's CV. Okay, thank you, Mega, for sharing the screen. Nara Masista. Nara is a diplomat who works at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Kemenlu, of the Republic of Indonesia with the title of appointed First Secretary. Since 2020, she has been the first secretary in the permanent mission of the Republic of Indonesia to the United Nations, World Trade Organization, and other international organizations in Geneva, especially dealing with issues related to employment and parliament. From early 2017 to early 2020, she was the head of the program subdivision with regional organization at the Strategic Support Bureau for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. She joined the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in 2008. During her career at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, she handled issues related to intra-regional cooperation in Asia Pacific and Africa, such as the new Asian-African Strategic Partnership and the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, including joining the Committee 2013 Indonesian APEC National Organizer at the time of chairing and hosting Indonesia at APEC in 2013. Her first assignment abroad was as third secretary 2014 to 2016, and second secretary 2016 till 2017 at the permanent mission of the Republic of Indonesia to the United Nations in New York, and dealing with issues related to the economy and development in Committee 2 of the United Nations General Assembly and ECOSOC, including among others related to the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. In her spare time, she has an interest in exploring traditional Indonesian art and culture. She also has an interest in exploring new places and learning about the different cultures of the world. Without any further ado, I invite Ms. Nara to share knowledge and insights about gender equality in international relations. Ms. Nara Masista, may the screen is yours.
Thank you very much, Grace, for the introduction. And I would like to convey my sincere admiration to your excellent English ability. I believe also all of the students here have very eloquent English. So hopefully you all will be apologetic for my very limited English. And okay, so basically what I want to do here now is to have a conversation with all of you regarding gender equality in international relations. So I'm not going to be present here as a lecturer, but more like a dialogue partner with all of you. And I'm going to discuss more on the practice of gender equality of international relations, so not onto the academic side, but more into the practice of how I've been having experience so far. So Grace, is it possible for me to share my screen because I have made a presentation?
Yes, Miss. Okay. Maybe. Hello, Miss.
Okay, I think I can share it now. Yes. So gender equality in international relations, the practice. because I also want to highlight how the norms of gender equality has been emerged and has been emerging and has been cascading throughout this the centuries, and how Indonesia also working in applying the gender equality norms in our own country. So first one is okay, next slide. Okay, here. So I'm going to divide this session with 4 main points. The first one is definition, and then the next one is the role of the United Nations, and then the third one is mainstreaming the gender equality norm, and the fourth one is Indonesia versus the world. So maybe also next I'm going to have some more, informal thought sharing with all of you, and so you can also reply and respond to my thoughts. I believe we also have time for question and answer at the end of the session, right? Okay, so next, gender equality. Okay, gender equality definition. So actually, I got this definition from UNICEF. Just to make it more clear, we want to know, what are we talking about? What is gender equality? I believe most of you are familiar as well with the gender equality definition. It's based on the UNICEF definition. Gender equality means the concept that women and men, girls and boys have equal conditions, treatment, and opportunities for realizing their full potentials, human rights, and dignity, and for contributing to and benefiting from the economic, social, cultural, and political development. So this is like a general definition of gender equality. So what I want to emphasize here is that gender equality does not mean that men and women are the same. Yeah. So, but they have an equal value in the society, and that their similarities and their differences as men and women should not become the discrimination reason of how people value them in the society. So that's what it means by gender equality. So they have equal rights, equal responsibilities, and equal opportunities. So their equal rights, responsibilities, and opportunities will not depend on whether they are born male or female. That's the definition. And then going to the next slide. Okay, so the role of the United Nations. So if maybe some of you are familiar with the concept of norm life cycle in constructivist, as international relations students, you might aware of the constructivist perspective. One of the theory that they have is the norms life cycle. And in norm life cycle, there are steps. The first one is the emergence. It is when a norm is coming out, and then norm cascading. It is how norms is, let's say, forcefully maybe applied in all countries with peer pressure. So this is how they try to spread norms into all countries. And then the third one is norm internalization. It is when a norm is internalized, believed as the correct norm. So in gender equality, we can see the role of the United Nations as the main norm entrepreneur. Okay, the norm entrepreneur, they are one of the main one of the main organization who try to push gender equality agenda. We can see how gender equality has been focused at the United Nations since the United Nations Charter is formulated. So in Article 1, it says here, to achieve international cooperation in solving international problems of an economic, social, cultural, or humanitarian character, and in promoting and encouraging respect for human rights and for fundamental freedoms for all, without distinction as to race, sex, language, or religion. So it says here, sex. Sex means men and women. So even in the United Charter, the document itself recognize that there should be respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms for men and women. So we can see the equality here. And then also the equality between men and women is recognized in other articles of the Charter, which is such as Article 13, Article 55, and Article 76. So since the UN was built, the acknowledgement of gender equality has been raised. And then also, as one of the first commissions formulated by the UN is the Commission on the Status of Women, CSW, under the auspices of ECOSOC. ECOSOC is the Economic and Social Committee of the UN. So it was built in 1946. So it is the CSW is the principal global intergovernmental body exclusively dedicated to the promotion of gender equality and the empowerment of women. If you are wondering what intergovernmental means it's an organization, interaction between government, intergovernmental. So, and then next, what else the UN do? At the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948, the CSW tried to ensure a gendered language document of Universal Declaration Human Rights. So the CSW, the commission that was built in 1946, they are part of the entities who formulated the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So this declaration is an acknowledgement of gender equality as part of the international human rights law. So women's rights are part of human's right. For instance, in Article 2, it says, everyone is entitled to all the rights and freedoms set forth in this declaration without distinction of any kind, such as race, color, sex, language, religion, political or other opinion, national or social origin, property, birth, and blah, blah, blah. So whatever declared in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights applies to men and women. And then also there's the creation of a convention on the elimination of all forms of discrimination against women, or CEDAW, in 1979. So this is like the International Bill of Rights of Women. So every women's right lies in this convention. The convention explicitly defines discrimination against women and sets up an agenda for national action to end such discrimination. So from the international level with this convention, they try to put it bottom to the national level. So each nation has to do their national action plan on the elimination of all forms of discrimination against women. And then what else the United Nations do? The United Nations also held a World Conference on Women. The most famous one is probably the fourth one, in the one held in Beijing in 1995, because from so I think there's a bit of mistake in my explanation on that part. My apology. I think I made the wrong explanation. So in the women conference in Beijing, they agreed on the women platform, Beijing Platform for Action. They have the Beijing Platform for Action. That's one of the most famous platform of women equality rights. And then also there are some other world conference. The first one is in 1975 in Mexico. The second one is in 1980 in Copenhagen. And the third one is in 1985 in Nairobi. So I guess I'm going to do a little revision on my text, and I will send it to the committee after this. So I guess I'm gonna do, and then okay, so this was supposed to be what was explained in the fourth conference. It's the UN woman. So the UN created a single body tasked with accelerating progress in achieving gender equality and women's empowerment. So it was created in 2010, and the body is merging 4 different agencies and bodies of the UN, such as UNIFEM, DAO, and also the Office of Special Advisor on Gender Issues, and the UN International Research and Training Institute for the Advancement of Women. So now we have one single UN body that is dealing with the issue of gender equality. So these are what the role of the UN in the emergence of gender equality norms. And then the next one is how we mainstream the gender equality norm. So if we see that during the earlier phase, it is important to push new norm into human rights issues. So we try to apply the gender equality norms through the application of human rights, but then also the issue of gender equality being mainstream in all sphere of international relations. For instance, at the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, we have, of course, the SDG 5, the Achieve Gender Equality and Empower All Women and Girls. So it's like the umbrella goal that relates to gender equality in the UN 2030 Agenda. But then we also have focused on women in almost all SDGs. So it's mainstream in all SDGs, in other SDGs. So just one SDG is not enough, but it's also mainstream in other goals. Because what? Because all other SDG is very relevant to empowering women, into ensuring gender equality. And it is not possible to achieve the 2030 Agenda without acknowledging gender equality. So that is why the issue of gender equality is also mainstream in other SDGs. Besides the SDGs, we also have the UN Security Council resolution. So in the issue of peace and security, there's also acknowledgement on the importance of gender equality. The most famous one, among the first one is UN Security Council number 1325 in 2000. On women, peace, and security. That's like the umbrella UN security resolution for gender equality related issues. And then the latest one in 2020, we have resolution number 2538 on women in peacekeeping operations. I skip an Indonesian language there a bit. So what is more, what makes us proud of this resolution is that Indonesia was the initiator of this resolution. So we came up with a draft resolution, and it was agreed by consensus at the Security Council. I guess most of you are familiar that in 2019 to 2020, Indonesia was one of the elected member of the Security Council. So during that period, we succeeded on having a UN Security Council resolutions on women in peacekeeping operations. And then what else? How can we mainstream gender equality norm? By making women days on women-related issue. For instance, the International Women's Day on 8 March. And then we also have the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women on the 25th of November. And we have also a number of other days related to women issue. So this is to make it the issue the issue of gender equality become repeated, becoming heard. This is how we celebrate women related issues by making international days. And then we also have the he for she. So he for she is the United Nations Global Solidarity Movement for Gender Equality. So it is invitation for men and people of all gender to stand in solidarity with women to create a bold, visible, and united force for gender equality. So in pushing the gender equality agenda, men aren't on the sideline. Men aren't watching. They are actually part of these efforts. They're working with women to build business, to raise families, and to give back to their communities. And again, Indonesia is not just silent. Okay, we have President Joko Widodo as one of the champions of he for she. And then next, mainstreaming gender, how? UN female peacekeepers. So we, as of August 2021, have more than 4,000 of female peacekeepers. So it's about 7% of the total, around 75,000 of world peacekeepers. It's a small number, but it's something. And we, Indonesia is also working collaboratively with other countries to improve this number. So this number is from 23 UN peacekeeping missions that are currently active. And then let's see another number. Female ministers, ambassadors. There are 35 female foreign ministers, including Indonesia's foreign ministers. So it is about 18% of all 190 ministers of foreign affairs. And then we also have 15% of female ambassadors worldwide. Okay, and I also want to get to take some notes with regard to these female ambassadors. Yes, the number is not yet high, but it's something. Again, it's an increase from the previous years. But we also need to pay attention not only on the quantity of female ambassadors, but also the quality of its assignment, of their assignment. So one of the concerns now by people who are pushing for women equality is, where are these ambassadors being posted? Are they posted in like the highest priority countries, or are they posted in let's say multilateral post? The thing is, even though we have 15% female ambassadors, unfortunately, most of them are posted not on the A-list countries, but more like B, C, like the middle class countries. So this is also something that we still need to push further. You know, how there are more female ambassadors posted in countries with significance in international relations. Next, female head of states. We have 22 female head of states of government, but it's about 11%. Indonesia had a female head of states, yes. And then female ministers, oh, okay. I repeat that data again, my apology. I think I need to drink more coffee this morning. Okay, now Indonesia and the world. So if you want to see the level of gender equality in the world, you can see it through the Global Gender Gap Report made by the World Economic Forum. And we have the data in 2021. In that data, Indonesia ranks 101 out of 156 countries. So we are less than half of other countries. We really need to work further. So the number is 68.8% gender equality. So it's, if you rank it based on university scores, so this might be considered as a C, right? 100% is considered gender equal. There's no country in this world that is that has reached 100% gender equality. The top 10 countries are Iceland, Finland, Norway, New Zealand, Sweden, Namibia, Rwanda, Lithuania, Ireland, and Switzerland. And if you, some of you might aware that I'm currently residing in Switzerland, and I can say that even as a top 10 country, Switzerland is not yet gender equal. There are a lot of regulations that still prefer men as the main breadwinner, for instance. So even Switzerland, the top 10 gender equal country, I believe is not that gender equal. So this is something that we also need to pay attention. Oh yeah, and this the point on number 2, Indonesia in ASEAN, Indonesia is ranked 5. So the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam beat us. So this is probably also something that we need to work on. We want to be one of the top in ASEAN countries. But we are doing actually quite okay in the Asia, East Asia, and the Pacific. We are top 10. But again, I would love for us to work on increasing the number of the gender equality in Indonesia. And then what about the process? We have done quite a few process in Indonesia to improve our gender equality. We have different national action plans to implement all international commitments that we have made. So we have National Action Plan on the elimination of violence against women. We have the National Action Plan on the protection and empowerment of women and children in social conflict. We have the National Action Plan on the fulfillment of women's reproductive rights. So we have some national action plans that are being reviewed every few years. And then we have also the President's Instruction number 9, 2000 on gender mainstreaming in development. With this instruction, all national institutions must apply gender mainstreaming policy in their institution. For instance, in Kemlu, we have the Minister of Foreign Affairs Regulation number 21 in 2020 on the guidelines to implement gender mainstreaming in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So again, I'm still writing Indonesian language there. So I think, again, more coffee for me. And then the question next is, what else can we do? What else should we do? Right now, the parliament is having conversation on different bills, including the elimination of sexual violence bills. There's also the gender equality and justice bill. So we as citizens need to follow closely the discussion of these bills to ensure that that gender equality and women's protection is upheld in our legal constitution. And then the progress. What's the progress that Indonesia has been benefiting from? First, we have 20.5% of female parliament members in 2019 until 2024. It's an increase from the previous period that only amount of 16.9%. And then also female women ministers, we have 17.65% ministers. So 6 female ministers out of 34 ministers in Indonesia. And female ambassadors, unfortunately, we only have 10%, around 10% of female ambassadors from Indonesia currently. So this is also something that we need to work further. And 56 women's participation in labor market. So this is quite a low number of women's participation in labor market. So definitely more works need to be done. More work needs to be done. And what kind of work that needs to be done? Okay, so I would say, okay, I think there's a bit of technical. Can you see my screen? Okay, let me close it. Okay. So first is the dominance of patriarchy. Patriarchy is the belief that the dominance of men in all spheres of life. That is patriarchy. So Indonesia, and I think also many countries in this world still have the dominance of patriarchy. And sometimes it makes it more difficult to pursue the agenda of gender equality when we still have the dominance of patriarchy. And then also the mindset, the culture or the norm of patriarchy already ingrained in most of our mindset, even myself maybe, even though I also I also support gender equality, but maybe some part of my mindset still have some sort of patriarchy, that women should do this or women should not do this, that create a limitation of what women can or cannot do. And then there's still double burden. So in the era that we are in now, the era where women are pushed to have more contribution, to play a more important role in the economic and social and maybe political sphere in international relations, sometimes we forget to provide bigger space for women to be free from their more personal obligations, such as, for instance, household chores and also child rearing. So it creates double burden for women when they are asked to be more active outside, but they are not helped to do their personal chores. So this is why, for me, it is also belief to create another mindset that tasks like household chores and also child rearing is a task that is not only attached to women but also to men. This is also something that we need to push forward in the future. And then there is this glass ceiling in the workplace. So this glass ceiling is how the workplace see women and their limitation. So from the recruitment phase, they see, oh, women, and then they will have more requests. They will ask privilege over men's worker. That creates gender ceiling for women. They are recruited less, or they are recruited but they have less salary, or they are recruited and then they have slower chances or less chances to get promoted. So it makes them it makes it more difficult for them to reach higher level of position in the workplace. And then there's also limited legal protection. Like I mentioned before, we don't have yet a regulation on the protection of women's violence against women. We don't have it yet. It's still under discussion. So actually the protection for women is still very limited. And then there's also the need of collaborative action. Not only we need more support from men, not only women need more support from men, but women do still actually need more support from women. So women need support from their own gender group, because not all women are supporting gender equality. Some women still support patriarchy. So this is also another issue, another work that need to be done. And then the gender neutral language. So in creating documents, especially like in international organizations or the UN, now we try to have a more gender neutral language. For an example, I'm working on the ILO right now. So there is this convention at the ILO that says men or refer to male as the main breadwinner. It creates a lot of discussions, let me just say, a lot of discussion that is not relevant to the current gender equality agenda. So there's a bigger push to have a gender neutral language in different international documents. And maybe we should also do the same in our national legislation. For instance, we should check, are there any gender bias language in our constitutions? For instance, for me, the regulation on marriage, for instance, it specifically says that the husband is the head of the family and the wife is the house mother. Maybe based on certain culture or certain religion, it is kind of the norm. But if we see it in the perspective of nationhood, having this separation between husband and wife creates a lot of challenge for women. For instance, a lot of women do not get additional support from their workplace because they are considered just assisting their husband, so they're not the main breadwinner, so they do not get certain allowance. Or maybe it's more difficult for them to have account or savings in banks. That happens in some countries still. And also maybe to borrow money from the bank or to borrow money for creating businesses. So this type of separation makes it more challenging for women to play more role in the economic, social, and political spheres. And maybe that's something that we need to work together to improve. And then this whole situation is exacerbated by the pandemic situation. In the pandemic situation, all this double burden on women even becoming doubling. So when you have a workplace closed, when you have schools closed, and then kids have to study at home, and women who are generally become the main carer has to work from home and also has to deal with their children. So it's creating additional burden. And it says that because of the pandemic, some of the achievements on gender equality has been diminishing globally. So this is also something that's continue to being discussed internationally currently. So I think this is my presentation from now, and I would love to discuss with all of you more on issues that might be relevant to you or that might that might trigger your interest. And I can also share, if you are willing, to share some discussion at the ILO on the labor issue, and also at the IPU on the interparliamentary union that I'm working on right now in Geneva. So at the ILO right now, the issues of women workers have always been a focus on their work. So on every issue, there should be mentioning on women empowerment or gender equality. So in every document that must include the focus on gender equality, as well as the IPU. The IPU now is working to improve the number of women parliament members globally. So the work has been done in different international organizations, and also even the ILO itself, they have to have certain number of workers, for instance. So the UN bodies itself need to have a affirmative action when they are recruiting their own staff. So the countries like Indonesia are paying attention to how many women right now working at the UN or at the ILO specifically. So there are so many mechanisms, so many arena and so many forum being used to discuss the issue of gender equality in international relations. And so that's why I would love for us to have a more conversation on this. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. And if I can answer it, I would love to. And if not, maybe we can continue our discussion outside of the summer course. And may I return this conversation to the moderator, maybe to help assisting the question and answer session. Thank you.
That's such a nice presentation from Ms. Nara, and thank you so much, Ms. Nara, for the insightful materials. Now it is time for the student to raise some question or deliver the point of view of the session. But before that, Ms. Nara, you want to answer directly one by one, or you want to me collect it first and answer it later?
Maybe one by one. It's easier for me, I think.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Nara. I see Anissa Antania. Anissa Antania, may you can open, okay, the camera and your mic. Okay.
Thank you for the moderator, Miss Grace, for the chance. Hello, my name is Anissa Antania. I'm from International Relations of Universitas Diponegoro. This is such a very interesting topic and near to my heart because I personally believe in gender equality and my personal heroine is Kartini. So it's basically kind of my favorite topic. But as I see lately in international situation, there is the emergence of a regime that basically they approve a gender biased public policy. It is Afghanistan after being occupied by Taliban. So I know that I haven't heard any comment yet from either United Nations or European Union or ASEAN itself, but is it a good sign or bad sign for our progress in gender equality? Because if there is a regime that emerge to bring a new discourse, there will be a war of discourse, right, in international relations. So what, as the representative of our country in United Nations, what is your comment? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Anissa. That is an interesting question and very timely, because I think right now a lot of us international actors are paying close attention to Afghanistan. But yes, I believe right now the international community are paying close attention to what is happening in Afghanistan. And the Taliban, let's say maybe government, the Taliban government said that they will respect women's right, but under the Sharia law, and we are still unsure what their interpretation of Sharia law is, because if we want to see, the thing is the international community has this trauma of what happening in Taliban in their previous dominance before the UN go into Afghanistan, or the US, let's say, in the 90s. So they were applying very strict Sharia law, if it's considered as Sharia law, and they were against women education. They were against women's activities in employment. So in the current government, as far as we are concerned, is that they still allow women to go to school, though maybe in some area they put, like the hijab or the separator between the men and women students, and they still allow women to go to work, though in some cases they limit the field of work that women are allowed to do. And also I think the field itself is getting narrower and narrower by the day. But then again, what I am aware of, and from my conversation with my friends and colleagues who are following the Afghanistan issue, actually Taliban itself are not a unity. So there are groups under the banner of Taliban that different groups can have power in different regions. So maybe different regions can have different regulations or different application on gender equality or women's right. So that is also something that we need to be seen. And if I say whether it is good or bad, it is a bit difficult to take sides right now, like because the situation is still very dynamic, and we are hopeful that the situation will not go worse. But yes, we've seen more limitations on women's rights again, and in that sense, maybe that is not a good thing, or that is not in accordance to what we want to see in Afghanistan. And also the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Indonesia, Ibu Retno Marsudi, also already convey Indonesia's message for Taliban to continue the respect for women's right. And that is something that we as a nation should do. And we hope that the Taliban government will listen to the decree, not the decree, but will listen to the suggestion from other countries, including Indonesia. And then, but also another question is, what happened to women's empowerment during the previous era? I mean, like the US or the UN, let's just say the UN has been in Afghanistan for 20 years, almost 20 years, but why we have not seen enough progress of women's empowerment there, so that now when Taliban returns, everything is flipped. The table is flipped just easily like that. If they have had enough empowerment, then there will be more resistance to respect, to ensure the respect of women's right in Afghanistan, even though Taliban is there. But I guess there is also some lack of effort that was done to promote women empowerment during the previous 20 years conducted by international community. And also probably there is this ingrained, or there's this internalized norm within the Afghan society itself that women are second-class citizen. It's not something that can easily be changed. So the norm life cycle that I mentioned, the norm cascading process, can take years, if not decades. So that's why perhaps even in 20 years of the existence of the UN and international community in Afghanistan has not been able to completely change their mindset of gender equality. So I guess, Anissa, both of us and other friends here, other students here, should follow closely what is happening in Afghanistan. Hopefully there will be still some degree of gender equality and women's right being respected there. And from that we can, and hope from that certain degree, hopefully the international community can still promote the increase of gender equality and women's right respect in Afghanistan. So this is our common work.
Anissa, is the answer is clear enough, or you may need more explanation?
May I ask one little question, maybe the last one? Will there be any war of discourse on gender equality because there is the emergence of this regime, and then it happened that Afghanistan is located in the region where most of the countries still have a staggering progress in gender equality itself.
War on discourse. Well, in my perspective, there is always wars of discourse on gender equality, not only in Afghanistan case, but in many other case, because as I mentioned in my presentation, there is no country in the world that has 100% gender equal. So all countries are still struggling to achieve gender equality, and also when you are trying to internalize norms, you need also to localize those norms. So it is important to engage what's being discussed internationally and to try to internalize it according to the local norms. For instance, gender equality in Indonesia might not be the same as gender equality in Afghanistan, for instance, or gender equality in the more in the Western countries. So it also depends on the localized norms. But whenever we see that the rights are respected and the contribution and the opportunities are respected and equal, then we can see a positive gender equality progress in that matters.
Thank you for answering my question, Miss. I hope I can get more insight after your class today. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Nora. We have the question from YouTube. Maybe you answer it for us, because it's the first question from the session.
Okay.
From Angelica Devi. Good afternoon, Ms. Nora. I'm Angel from Diponegoro University. I want to ask, is it possible for any country having 100% gender equality, and what things can be affected by that?
Okay, what phase can be affected by that? What phase?
Maybe I will make it shortly. Is it possible for any country having 100% gender equality, and what things can be affected by that?
Oh, okay. Well, I'm a positive person. I think it's possible to for a country to have a 100% gender equal, though of course a lot of things that still need to be done. Like if I can check again here in the global gender gap report, the highest country, which is Iceland, they now have, let me check, they now have 89% gender equality. And if we have 100% gender equality situation, what will be the impact? Is that what it means by the question? So maybe it's the mindset. When you have 100% gender equality, there will be no questions like Miss Madam Minister, you are such an overachiever and you are excellent in doing your work as a minister, but how do you balance your work life and your personal life? How do you balance your family life and your work life? This kind of question is actually a question that reflects gender inequality or double burden, that no matter how an overachiever you are still considered as child carer. You are considered as the house mother. So that is also one type of example of gender inequality. male ministers don't get that at all, if not a lot, right? Sometimes maybe once or twice there are those questions, but that's not the norm. But for female ministers or female head of states maybe, or female anyone who are achievers, they are often asked that kind of question. That's one thing. And then there is no questions of there is no questions of again, when 100% has been achieved. I think that I'm sorry, I'm blubbering. I think that's one of the impact. There's in our the change of mindset. The change of mindset is what will happen when you have 100% gender equality, and then also okay. Can you do I make any sense to the questions? Is the person looking from YouTube can send their acceptance or their understanding of what I mentioned? Grace?
Maybe I will tell you later, Miss, since we have a lot of question here, and from Zoom also have a 9 question, and YouTube also have a lot of question.
Okay, maybe we can return to that question later after this 9 questions.
Okay, thank you, Miss. Here's Hino Samuel Hussein.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Moderator. Let me introduce myself. My name is Hino Samuel Jose. I'm a final year International Relations undergraduate from UPN Veteran Jakarta. Mohon izin, Mbak Nara, because I'm interning in Kemlu, so I have to use that term actually. So yeah, actually in Kemlu right now, the place where I'm interning in BPPK, BS Kalian, Patriarchy Aspasa, we rarely touch about gender, but that's why. I'm pretty much eager to know more actually about our multilateral diplomacy, especially in terms of gender. So I do realize that as you mentioned before, you work on ILO, right? So I previously researched a bit for my question. So I read the report of the ILO meeting of experts on violence against women and men in the world of work. It's produced in 2016, but yeah, I'm trying to find the newest one, but I think I have yet to find it. So yeah, according to this report, there is some problems in how member states, especially the tripartite meeting, understand the meaning of violence. So what is the line that we can determine, like, okay, this is violence, this is non-violence? And yeah, so actually the report mentioned about that, and also the report also mentioned that currently, the expert from the government recognize that many discussions, are still oriented towards the discourse whether this is a victimization or whatnot to the women in the workplace itself. So, according to your practical experience, but in Patriarchy Geneva, how Indonesia stand on this? Do we draw a line upon it? And if we do draw a line on our stance, on our position, then what is the definition of violence that is being perceived by Indonesia, violence at work? Because like verbal discrimination, let's say, might not be considered as a legitimate violence, yeah, quote unquote, yeah. So, but some found that it's somehow also oppressive. But some also maybe perceive that violence is when a physical actions is being taken, or let's say there are multiple casualties or collateral damage at work. So yeah, from your experience, but maybe what is Indonesia's stance on this, and what are the things to work forward? Yeah, and yeah, thank you very much. And actually, I would like to apologize to the committee because previously I'm turning off my camera because I have work also to be done here for my custom bit. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Hino Samuel Jose. I don't know how to address you properly. Which one?
Jose.
Jose. Okay, thank you, Jose, for the questions. Well, so basically, you are quite familiar with the work of the ministry. And maybe I can also use your your hands in BPPK to, you know, and your voice in BPPK to ask for more focus, more, you know, on women, on empowerment and gender equality. Maybe that is also something that you know, the ministry can be benefited from an intern like you. And then with regards to gender violence, well, technically this is an unfinished business for Indonesia, because we still don't have the undang-undang. We don't have the regulations specifically dealing with violence against women. And even what I heard, what I read right now, there are still changes in some definitions of the crimes considered as violence, like rape. What is rape? Even the definition of rape is unclear, and now they try to change it in the newest draft of the bill. So again, since even internally we do not have specific reference, so it is not easy indeed to have a specific line, you know, on how we define violence against women. So most of the time we refer to the Indonesian Penal Code, so something that is applied to men and women, so there's no gender distinction in there. That's our base. And whenever we do for instance, negotiation. But indeed, we are a supporter of the let's say the agenda or the norms of against violence, of combating violence against women. We are one of the supporters indeed. But when it comes to definition, it is not that easy, because we do not have our national reference yet on that matter. And like I said, international norms or international agreements need to be localized when it comes to implementation at the national level. So yes, different countries can have their own interpretation of what are considered as violence against women. So hopefully maybe Jose, maybe if Ministry of Foreign Affairs, especially BPPK, can have more discussion on this, and maybe can have a paper, I don't know what's, or like a kajian, yeah, like
yes.
like a non-paper on gender inequality, on also protection of women against violence. That so maybe that can be a way to have a more definitive language on violence against women.
Okay, thank you, Mbak. Because actually I raised this question also because I think previously we met on the BIMTech UU Ciptaker. Yeah, I think you asked a question about ILO and UU Ciptaker. That's why I'm inspired by that.
Yes.
To ask regarding this question, because I do acknowledge that the ministry is more focused into economic diplomacy right now and the Indo-Pacific outlook. That's why we never touch upon gender. That's why I don't know a lot about the topic. So yeah. But thank you. Your explanation are already open, and I think it also triggers me to write a paper about this. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much for remembering what I asked during that event. And yes, of course, in my personal, I don't know if it's personal or professional capacity as a diplomat and a civil servant at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, I always try to, trigger a conversation on gender equality and women empowerment in different substance that are being discussed. So yeah.
Thank you, Mbak. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Hino, for the question, and we'll continue the question from Marcel. I'm sorry, Marcel. Are you still there? Oh no, he left. I'm sorry, Miss Nara. So we'll continue the question from the YouTube from Alaya Sofia. What is Ms. Nara's opinion due to sexual harassment towards female on professional working space?
My opinion, of course, I am against it wholeheartedly and fully. That is something that we need to work on internationally or nationally, and even in my own institution. So currently, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is working on an internal regulations on how to prevent and to address whenever there is a sexual violence occurring in the workplace. And again, that is also our homework as a nation, because we haven't managed to have a regulations on addressing violence against women.
Okay, thank you for the answer, Ms. Nara. We have still a lot of question and we still have the time, so I will continue quickly from Radita Ayu.
Okay, thank you. So I will introduce myself first. My name is Radita Maharani from English Literature of Diponegoro University, and I'm going to ask a question. So earlier, Ms. Nara have mentioned that the effort to raise the awareness of gender equality is by creating a celebration day for gender equality. Let's say it's like a Women March, which is very famous since many social media influencers often join the hype. From my observation to the people around me, many people try to join the hype only for the sake of their social media content, but they actually don't really understand the meaning or the story behind the movement itself. So I want to ask Ms. Nara, what do you think about that phenomena? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, that's possibly that's possibly one of the motives, to raise issue to raise the concern on gender equality issue, which is to be more relevant to the international discourse, on their social media. But for me, in my personal opinion, I would just say let them. So we should not shut voices. We should not. We should allow them to speak, because that's their opinion, and everyone deserves to have their opinion. So let them help the voice to increase the awareness on gender equality and women empowerment. So a repeated message is good. Okay, repeated message is good. So even though they have other motives on raising this issue, let them. But besides letting them, we as a person should try to do more, right? We as a person can voice the agenda itself based on what we want it to be. If we do not, if we really care about the gender equality issue, then we can also voice the progress currently, or the work that has been done, or the work that has not been done, and the benefit of having gender equality for us as a nation, for instance, or for us as a global citizen. So let those people who wants to raise the issue of gender equality only to make their social media more attractive, but we as a person can also do more, right? So I think that's more important than to eliminate other voice. It is more important to raise our own voice. And also the phenomenon that I'm also experiencing is that a lot of even women themselves are bashing each other whenever they use they use different language, or whenever they use different perspectives. For me, as long as the goal is the same, to increase gender equality and also women empowerment, or at least the awareness of it, then let all this voice come up. We do not have to shout the other voice, but we also but we also increase our volume, our voice, our perspectives. So the more, the merrier for me in terms of this, because maybe some of you are studying communication. There is the theory on propaganda, you know, when something is mentioned over and over, then people start internalizing it in their own mind and consider that as a reality. So that's what we need to do also on the issue of gender equality currently.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Nara, for the insightful answer.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Radita. Is that clear?
Yes, it's very clear. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next from the YouTube question, Farrell Parweji. What is important in terms of gender, or what can be obtained if this gender equal is actually implemented 100,000, even 100%, even though there are many regulations, but the application of gender equality is still not being fully implemented. So what is the most inhibiting factors in the process of implementing gender equality? That's the question, Miss.
Yes. This is actually a bit similar to the question from YouTube, I think, right? In a sense. So some of the most important things with regard to the implementation of gender equality, first is, of course, the legal aspect of it. You know, that's why we have a different international agreement on gender equality, on women empowerment issue, like the CEDAW itself is on protection of women. Also, that is internationally. Also, nationally, we need to have sufficient regulation enforced nationally with regard to gender equality or women empowerment or women's protection against violence. So legal element is the first, and then also on participation of women in different sphere of economic, social, and political sphere. Like I mentioned, the number of women in labor market. So how many women in labor market is the number relatively equal with the men, the number of men in labor market, the number of women in the top position in different national institutions or in private companies, is the number equal to the number of male in those top positions, and then the number of female decision makers, female parliaments, female head of states, head of governments. So the participation, and then there is also the mindset, like I told you. So there will be no questions whether women can whether it is possible for women to be to achieve something without having to be reminded of their position as a mother, for instance, or as a spouse, or as or as a housewife, for instance. So the mindset itself matters. I think those are the elements that are important to progress with gender equality agenda.
Okay, thank you, Miss. So maybe I will make this short statement. So we have the same homework like what Ms. Nara did, and also I'm very grateful to have Ms. Nara, and also we also grateful because Ms. Nara share the knowledge and a new perspective about gender equality. So Ms. Nara will continue the question from Muhammad Ali Farhan.
Can you hear me properly?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Muhammad Alif. You can call me Alif. I am from International Relations Department of Universitas Ponorogo. So, I follow a number of, political figures or people who are very vocal in how they say their opinion. And one of them is a Canadian psychological professor named Dr. Jordan Peterson, in which he stated that. So before I go into my question is basically just asking about your opinion on this. So he stated that the higher the number, not the number, the higher the state promotes gender equality, and the more state enforces gender equality between men and women, at the end of the day, uh, the women itself, because of those freedom, uh, didn't really choose a career path, or like, choosing to work at the office, or maybe to work as other things that are more readily available to them. Instead, because of the more freedom that they have to choose what they want, they actually went back to being a, how should I say it? Being like working at home, being a child bearer, or being like a good mother or a good wife. So I would like to ask you, I would like to ask your opinion on that, and I would like to comment a little bit on your, on your answer. In my opinion, I don't think that it is good to propagandize the message of gender equality. At least that's what I'm getting. When you ask, like, if there's somebody studying about communications, and when you repeat the thing over and over and over again, people will actually think it as a moral truth, or a good moral. In my opinion, I think it's better to make them understand on what is good or what is bad in gender equality itself, rather than just repeating it over and over again. Because not only that, it will propagandize it, it will actually, in my opinion, it will become obnoxious, and at the end of, and in my opinion, it will actually backfire, that people will don't like it. And that's my comment. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you, Alif. Yeah, Alif. With regard to your first question, I think it's perfectly valid. Perfectly valid. If anyone wants to choose anything to be as a person, then it's perfectly valid. If women wants to choose to stay at home and focusing solely on raising their child, or managing their house, then that's their choice. But in my opinion, it is very rarely that women are not allowed to do that. Very rarely. But on the other side, it is more often for women to not allowed to work outside, for instance, to not allowed to contribute to the society. So that is the problem that we are trying to deal with. We are trying to open the access for women to participate in different, to participate in the community. Let's just say it that way. So we never try to prevent women from staying at home, but we try to open the horizon that there are options of what we can do as a woman, and we should do it. And when we do it, there will be benefit for the society, for the community. So there are different research that support how the economy is benefited from having more female workers or more female entrepreneurs. And then also in the sphere of politics, maybe there are better governance in the society when they have female decision makers in the country, and also in the field of peace and security. There are evidence that if women are involved in peace negotiation, then the peace that is achieved from that negotiation will have longer effect than when women are not involved. So there are these examples and evidence that women's participation in the community is beneficial for all, not only for women. So that is my opinion. So what's more important is to give women the opportunity, to give women the options to do what they are, what they have in passion. So I guess that's my perspective. And then with regard to your second question, yes, propaganda. I did mention on propaganda. Yeah, maybe that was not my what I meant. But what I meant is that it is good to repeat the message, to make men and women understand what is gender equality and how we can achieve it, and the work that needs to be done. It's like a propaganda, but it's not a propaganda. Yeah, it's like propaganda is mentioned repetitive, right? Something that is mentioned repetitive, but of course in propaganda you put biased information and inside. So that's the difference. I'm not saying that this repeated message is a propaganda, but it's like a propaganda that is keep repeating in itself. Yeah. Do you have further question?
I think that's it. Thank you very much for your answer, and thank you very much for your lecture.
Okay, thank you, Ali Farhan. And next, Ataya, are you here?
Okay, thank you, Kak Grace. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Ms. Nara, for the incredible presentation. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Ataya. I am an international relations student of Universitas Diponegoro. So, Miss, I have a question. I think two questions actually, if that okay. So at the presentation, you explained to us that based on the data, Indonesia is in a very low level of gender equality, right? So my question is it any correlation between the low number of gender equality in Indonesia with the culture belief in Indonesia? Because we all know in Indonesia, if we are talking about gender equality and stuff related to them, some people saw it as, some people have a negative perception within the gender equality issues. Many people stuck in between being an empowered woman, but also they still didn't want to break any rules or like any values that has been implemented since a long time. And then what can we do to push the gender equality number in Indonesia, and what can we do to break the stigma of gender bias in Indonesia? Because we all know that many people have misconception about the gender equality in Indonesia. So I think that's it. That's it, Miss. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Ataya, for the excellent question. Yes, based on my limited readings, I do believe that culture influence how a country achieve their gender equality, not only in Indonesia, but throughout the world. Yeah, I think internationally, that's how it is. Culture very much influence, because culture also influence our mindset. Okay, and culture has been developed for centuries, so it is not easy to change something that has been developed for centuries in just years or even decades. Yeah, like in Indonesia itself, it is very limited because the number is based on at least four reference, the gender data gap number. So it's based on economic participation and opportunity. It is based on educational attainment. It is based on health issue, health and survival, and it's also on political environment. If we can see only on even on the educational attainment, the very basic aspect, we can still see in our society how families prefer son, than daughters, to put them into higher education. When they have limited amount of money, limited resources, they would push their sons more into higher education than their daughters. Of course, if you have all the resources you need, then you can have both. But when you have limited, then the preference will be on their sons. That is one thing. And why? Because based on our culture, the male are going to be the breadwinner of the family, right? And it also says in our regulation on marriage, that men, that husbands are the head of the household. So even the culture, the patriarchy culture that we already have is being strengthened by the regulation that we have at the national level. So I guess that's the challenge that we need to figure out, and how to change it. Of course, like I mentioned, the legal aspect is very important. We need to push for regulations that support and promote gender equality, as well as women's protection. I think someone is eager to join our conversation here.
I'm sorry, Ms. Nora, about the inconvenience.
It's okay. Maybe we can look for the source of voice and unmute and mute them. Yeah, I think it's done now. Thank you. And yeah, so the legal aspect. So the first thing that we need to do is to give access to women to fulfill their economic, social, and political aspiration. Give access, and then what? And then to support their participation, to promote their participation. More women, more men. Quota is somehow important. Quota, it's an affirmative action to enforce participation of women in different fields. Quota on women parliament, quota on women ministers, for instance. Also, you know what? Simple one, the anti-Manel agenda. If you see a webinar maybe, or during this pandemic era, we have tons of webinar almost every day, right? Talk show, online talk show. If you see there are only men speakers in those events, then maybe we should voice something, you know. So where are the women? Aren't there any women who knows about this issue? Aren't women voice important on this issue? Always ask about female speakers. And then also, we need to ensure that the control, that women should also have control in the society. That's why the importance of having more women decision makers, so that we have controls over what is happening or what is decided in the society. And then the last one, the fourth one, so access, participation, control. The fourth one is benefit. What's the benefit of something for women? By having open access, more participation, and strength and stronger control, then we can have more benefit for women. So I think those are the things that we need to pay attention. And you and us, we can also work it through different forum. Not for me, for instance, not only through my work as a diplomat in my ministry or maybe at the UN, but it's also I'm also doing it through the social media, for instance. I know all of you are social media savvy, so you guys know more than I do on social media. So that's why I'm also once in a while putting the agenda of gender equality on my for instance Instagram account, you know, having some messages of gender equality. And I'm also with my friend Cecile Christofia. We are working on women support women, or women choice I would say community, OPTSHE. If you can check ini, I'm selling my own selling my own community OPTSHE. Yeah, we're trying to promote the idea of gender equality for women, those who are ambitious to work outside, and also for those who are very interested on staying at home. So this gender equality agenda is for all. you know, not just for the feminists, let's say, but even for the non-feminists, we try to make this gender equality idea also benefiting for them. So again, if you care about gender equality issue, just try to talk about that and to explain what is gender equality among your own sphere, among your own circle, your family, your friends, your social media. That's the smallest thing that we can do as a person. And if you can go bigger into something else, that's even better. Yes. Do you have other questions? Do you have additional question?
No, thank you very much, Miss, for the answer.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Taya. And Ms. Nora, I will continue from the YouTube question. From Sanashia to Zahra. Afternoon, Ms. Nora. I'm Sanashia to Zahra, an international relations student of Undip. Speaking about gender equality, we're facing a bit of truth that women tend to be less promoted than men. This can be seen with the fact that there's a gap and lack of female role models in workplace. What is your opinion about this? And do you think there's a way to fix this problem? Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the questions. I think we still have very limited number of women in the workplace. I think I did mention in my presentation that there's only 56% of women workers in Indonesia currently, and the number will be less and less when we reach to a higher position. So yes, there is lack of example. Yeah, there is lack of role model for women to be active in the world of work. But of course, sorry, what was the second question again?
The second question,
what to do, right?
What to do and a way to fix this problem.
A way to fix this. Yes, I think I have mentioned that we need to ensure this four elements in ensuring gender equality: the access and the participation and the control, and also the benefit for women in different sphere of life, including in the world of work. And also there is also this policy of making a quota, the affirmative action, to push for bigger number of women executives, for instance, in the workplace. And also there is also regulation that companies should not reject women worker based solely on their sexuality or on their gender, on their sex. So there are regulations in place to promote more women participation in the workplace.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Nora. And I think the question from YouTube have the same pattern. So I'm sorry for Paulino and Jessica, because you have the same question with Samasya. And I will continue the question from this Zoom. Pratama Indra, you may raise the question.
Okay, thank you, Grace, for giving me the chance. So, hello, my name is Pratama Indra Hermawan. You can call me Pratama. I'm from English. I am an English literature student in Diponegoro University. So, Ms. Nara, I would like to ask some questions about patriarchy. So, as we can also see in our society, patriarchy is highly practiced throughout every layer of our society, right? So you've mentioned before about patriarchy. Maybe like we can do some things in legals, like maybe like in regulations of in Indonesia about patriarchy. And I have several questions about it. So, is there anything that we can take example of regarding fighting patriarchy from maybe in Switzerland or maybe in Europe or United States? And what needs to be done in Indonesia since patriarchy is a huge part of our society? Since you've mentioned before that there are several works that need to be done by Indonesia, and the number one is about the dominance of patriarchy. And the third one is about the legals. What do we need to do about it? So, do we need to do something, or do we need to support some regulations or things like that? So, yes, that is my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Pratama, for your questions. Those are very excellent questions. Okay. So the first one, how do we deal with patriarchy? Wow, that is also my questions. How do we deal? Because that is very much ingrained in our society, and it's so difficult to deal with it. And even if we can, do we want to? Because I don't think many, if not most, of Indonesians want to eliminate patriarchy. So the struggle is there. There are people who try to push for more gender equality, but there are also a lot of people who wants to keep gender inequality, who wants to keep patriarchy in the society or in Indonesia as a nation itself. So I think there's so I think what we need to do is to have both the top approach and bottom up approach, the top down approach and the bottom up approach. So when some of us in the government try to push for regulations that promote more gender equality or promote more protection of women against violence, then also us in the society, we need also to change the mindset, to sell the idea of gender equality and women empowerment. That is necessary. That we cannot just have one approach. We need to have both. So because what is more difficult to achieve is what the society think, what the mindset of the people. That is more difficult. Like I mentioned, the culture is there for centuries, and it is being strengthened, being emboldened by the religion, for instance. Not and it's even more difficult when we start talking about religion. So this is a work that will take time and will need all of us to get on board. So yeah, the question whether we can or cannot, yes, we can, but do we want to? If we want to, then please be part of the movement. And then okay, then the next question is on the legality, a legal aspect. Yes, of course, we need to change some regulations in Indonesia. Please support please follow closely, and maybe criticize if necessary the elimination of sexual violence bill that is currently being discussed among the parliaments. And there's also this gender equality and justice bill. I'm not sure if it's currently one of the priority in our national legislation system, but the elimination of sexual violence is one of the priorities right now. So pay attention to the discussion and criticize whenever you think there's something lacking from that bill. And yeah, and I did I miss your second question? What was your second question?
Yeah, it's about what we can learn about fighting patriarchy from maybe in Swiss, where
Okay.
you live right
Yes.
now. Yep.
Okay. Yes. Patriarchy in Swiss, yes, it still exists. So men are still considered the main breadwinner, and so that's why it affects some of the government's regulation here, such as expensive childcare in Switzerland, because the government does not provide enough subsidy. and then also on leave regulation. In countries with feminine with feminine foreign policy or feminine domestic policy, for instance, usually they have this paternal leave. So not only maternal leave. So for women who gets some leave after the birth of a child, but also the male get that kind of leave, that certain leave. And even in some countries, they can have leave for up to 2 years, maybe. And then can be divided between the husband and the wife. So the wife can take a year leave, a year maternal leave, and then the husband can take a year paternal leave as well, maybe after the wife, so that they can take turns in raising their kids. So that is an example of a feminist policy. And then also in some other countries that I'm aware of, in like Eastern Europe, they have maternal leave for up to 5 years even. So women can opt to stay at home with their kids and to have their position in place in the company. So the company can only find a temporary replacement. So when the female worker returns to work, she has to get her old position back. Even that, if you see, there is still a sense of sacrifice in the workplace, so they cannot get promotion, but at least they can opt to still care for their child while they will still be able to return to the workforce once they finish their maternal leave. So those are just small examples of how we can work on improving gender equality, especially in the workplace, and how that can, also address patriarchy in a way, so that the mindset is there, the mindset that men and women have equal share of household chores or child care. Do you have other additional questions?
Thank you very much. I highly appreciate your answers. That was very inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you, Pratama. Maybe Ms. Nara, I will give you the time to take some water because it's too long, because the question is yeah, we have 7 questions actually.
Excellent. I love active participants. If you may, I might need like a minute to fix my cable. I need to charge my laptop.
Okay, it's okay, Ms. Nora. I will waiting for you, and I will just the next participants to us. Ms. Nora is Yuta. Yuta, maybe you can answer ask the question after Ms. Nora have already done.
Okay, I'm done now.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Nora. Yuta?
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Ginting. First of all, I'd like to apologize because I have to turn off my camera, but I can't do both mic and camera. Okay, Ms. Nara, I'd like to ask you, there is when we speak about women's rights throughout the time, there is always a thick layer of patriarchy, or perhaps we call it a traditional way, the traditional point of view of patriarchy, which is make a limitation of women's rights. My question is, how can we, whether as a person, government, or even the United Nations, can bring together this point of view, which is the patriarchy thing, and now is the modern, to create the better future, to make a better future for women, or perhaps the win-win solution like that. Thank you.
Yes, Okay, thank you, Yuta, right, Yuta, for your question. I think some of the answers to your question have been mentioned in previous questions and even from my presentation. But yes, indeed, this is the work of all aspects of the society. For us personally, it is important for us also to always voice the importance of gender equality in the society. So this is important not just for women but also for men. For instance, based on research, they found that the number of violence against women is reduced when there are when the women or the women itself they contribute to the economy of the family, so when the woman is considered as contributor to the economy of the family, they receive less violence in a way. Does that make sense? So from this understanding, families should know that when you allow the mother or the wife to contribute to the economy of the family, that is better for your family, right? And it will also reduce anger, perhaps anger and violence to women. And then also in terms of national or the society as a whole, I already mentioned that there are evidence that say how women's participation in the economic or social or political sphere is beneficial to the improve of the condition in those sphere. So these are the benefits of gender equality that we need to continue to promote in our surroundings. And then we as a citizen also should pay more attention to what is happening at the national level. We have this elimination of violence against women bill that is currently under discussion. So we need to pay attention to that. We need to voice our concern whenever you have any concern. So be an active citizen. I think that's what I can suggest at this moment. So like I also mentioned, the issue of gender equality benefit not only men and women, but also for men, for women, not only for the ambitious overachiever women or feminists, but gender equality is also beneficial for housewives, for your sister, for your mother, for people around us. The benefit is real. So that is why we need to continue promoting the issue of gender equality. I think that what I can say. And also, again, don't forget the 4 element of gender equality that I mentioned. This is something that the government keeps promoting: the participation, the control, and the benefit. So those are the 4 things that we need to see when we analyze the situation of gender equality, whether it is in Indonesia or in other country. So how's the access for women? How's the participation of women? How's the control by women on decision making? And what's the benefit of the policy for women? So I guess I don't know if that has answered your question, Yuta, right?
Yuta?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Nara.
Okay, thank you for the answer, Ms. Nara. And of course, it's 2:50, and then we still have the time until 3 p.m. But I want to ask you, are you okay if we extend the time till 15 minutes? Or what do you think, Ms. Nora?
Maybe we have 4 questions left, right? Maybe we can consider each question as 5 minutes, or maybe additional 10 minutes will be fine.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Rara. So, Rizky Anggarani.
Okay, thank you, Grace. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Nara, for the opportunity and for the speech. I really love to hear the new information. I have several questions, maybe like two other questions. The first one is regarding to the ILO, because I know ILO works wonderfully for gender equality. I know about the ILO Conference number 119 about the workspace, and that's have a regulation about the sexual harassment in workspace. But the thing is, the good regulation globally, it's not really easy to implement in nationally. I know Indonesia doesn't ratify the convention yet, and how does we synchronize those? Because a good global regulation is not really good if it's not applying in the national level, even in a grassroots level. That's the first question. And the second is about the post-pandemic resolution, because after your slideshow several minutes ago, you said that we reach a setback in reaching our goal in 2030. So how does the post-pandemic resolution now globally are being discussed? Maybe that's it. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you for the questions, Rizky. So yes, you are right. Like it is difficult. I mean, like it is difficult sometimes to implement our international commitment at the national level. That is not just an Indonesian problem. That's a problem for a lot of countries worldwide. And so yes, and we haven't had any regulations on violence against women. So what I would suggest, what I would promote myself is that we as person, as a member of society, can also work on our own in our own individual capacity to our surrounding. For instance, if now you are a student, then maybe you can promote a regulation on how to prevent and address sexual violence in your campus, perhaps in your university or in your student body even. So make your own movement, start from the smallest circle, so when and hopefully that will grow bigger. Like for us in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, some of us female diplomats, we are also pushing for that regulation on how to prevent and address sexual violence, for instance. We are working on it. So just start from our own circle, and then it can grow up all the way up. So a bottom-up approach. When the top-down approach is facing some difficulties, then we can also work on the bottom-up approach. I think that's what I can say at the moment, because indeed it is very difficult. Whenever you try to sell any new norm, whenever you try to promote any new norm, there will be like a reaction. Like in theory and like physical theory, whenever there is action, there is always reaction. So it's the same with the gender equality norm. When you try to promote gender equality, other people will try to prevent it. Other people will try to defend patriarchy, for instance. It's normal. And so what we need to do is just start from our own circle and try to make bigger network. If you can maybe also make some network with students from other countries, maybe from ASEAN or youth at the UN, if you can work on that, that's excellent. So create your own circles and then make networks out of it, and then push for the agenda. That's probably my suggestion. And then the second question. My bad. I should have wrote down. Can you repeat again your second question?
Yeah. what is it being discussed in
Oh, okay.
international about the post-war? Yeah.
Yes, but the pandemic, yes, the pandemic. So as far as I know, almost all international organizations currently are focusing on the pandemic, focusing on how to address the pandemic and how to build back better, including how to achieve the SDG, for instance. So at the ILO, we also have that commitment to recover, to recover. We call it a human-centered recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic in the world of work. So the specific focus is on the world of works. But of course, in this document, under this commitment, there are also focus on women workers, for instance. And the ILO also acknowledge how double burden has made life difficult for women workers, especially. Also, at the WHO, there are discussion also on the protection of women medical workers, for instance, because most of medical workers are women. And that's why the protection of women medical workers is very important. And also how we can prevent future pandemic in the future. So there are discussion on that. So in different international organizations, we have started that discussion, and maybe we can also start that discussion nationally. And also, again, back to our circle. Maybe we can also start that discussion in our circle. Can we see maybe we can start looking around at our own student friends. Maybe your friends from from outside of Java, maybe. How are they coping with it? How are the female students from outside Java when you have to work online, when you have to study online? Do they have enough resources to support that? Or maybe when they go back home and then their parents say, oh, you don't do anything, you just stay at home. Why don't you just get married and you're a woman anyway? Maybe they're also facing that kind of situation. Start from your circle. Pay attention to your own friends, your female friends from outside Java. So this is something that we need to do layer by layer because it's a complex issue. It's a complex issue. So I guess that's how I can suggest on how we can continue to pursue the agenda of gender equality post pandemic. Yeah.
Rizky, is that clear?
Yes, it's clear. Thank you so much for the opportunity and the answers.
Okay, thank you so much for the questions. And I will continue. Tasha?
All right. Thank you, Kak Grace. Hello, everyone. I'm Tasha, and I'm a student from the Department of International Relations, Diponegoro University. I would like to ask a question to Ms. Nara. Earlier, you mentioned about patriarchy that have existed in our society for ages, I believe, and also feminists mainly use the term of patriarchy to describe the power of relationship between men and women. My question is, from your perspective, does patriarchy is an ideology that should be concerned of? Because in some cases, patriarchy itself could bring more harm or even could cause a clash or even being a clear evidence of miscommunication, and eventually could be a societal mindset that influenced the younger generation that they should act like what the feminists did. But also, I think we should also be aware that we live in Indonesia, where our country still have Pancasila and we still uphold it as the basis of the state. So which means we still prioritize religion, to be precise. And also because we live in the era of technology, there are so many accounts in every single social media that upholds anti-patriarchy. And usually these feminists post an explanation about anti-patriarchy in a barbaric way. So it gives an impression to the reader that anti-patriarchy is a bad thing. And from what I observed, there must be one or two comments that says, oh gosh, you guys are always talk about anti-patriarchy, where in my religion, it clearly says that as a woman, we should obey patriarchy. So my second question is, how do you see this issue from
how do you act towards this matter from the matter of principle? I think that's all.
Thank you, Tasha, for the questions. Very interesting, very excellent. Yes, I personally do believe that we need to eliminate patriarchy. That's my principle. I believe in gender equality in all spheres of life, including in personal and household life, for example. And if we start discussing about religion, this may be out of my comfort zone, but I can share you that a lot of thinkers, a lot of if I may assume that you're a Muslim from your star, right? So so a lot of Muslim scholars actually do not prefer patriarchy. Actually believe that men are equal in their sense. Yes, there are different roles that men and women can play, but that doesn't mean that men are above women. You know, there are those perspectives. So maybe as a Muslim, maybe you can also help other women to find those perspectives, to learn about those perspectives, that even when at some point men have specific role and women have specific role, that doesn't mean that men should dominate everything, you know. So that's a kind of argument that we need to learn. And I would say feminism itself has different layers, have different spectrums, and different scholars of feminism might have different perspective. So yes, some are very much into women dominant, maybe in a way, women domination, but many others have more perspective on like truly equal partnership between women and women. So we also need to expand our knowledge on what is feminism, and to not be you know, to not be how do you say, to not just be how do you say so that you let me rephrase myself. So we need to expand our knowledge on feminism so that we understand more of what is feminism is, and not being biased of some perspective against feminism that say that feminism are just bunch of emotional women, for instance. Maybe I heard that quite a few times, that feminists are only angry women. So but yeah, so maybe that's what we can do. We learn more about our own religion maybe, and the perspective inside, and we can also learn about feminism if we want to, and we can learn about the benefits of gender equality. So I think one of the participants asked about the discourse wars on gender equality. So maybe this is also part of it. So even in one religion, we haven't discussed about other religions, even in one religion, there are different discourse on gender equality. And what I have been following, there are also Muslim scholars who consider men and women are equal in the eye of God. In the eye of God, even though they play a different role. So I guess that's my question. Thank you.
Tasha, is that clear, or you wanna add something?
Yeah, that was very clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Tasha, for the question. So, Ms. Nora, we have still two questions, and oh my God, three questions, and we have the time till 3 your time. So we should choose, or you want to answer all the question, Ms. Nora?
Yeah, maybe we can have all three together. So maybe we can see if the question is similar.
Okay. So Salsabila?
Yes. Okay. Thank you for the opportunity. First, my name is Salsabila Latifa from International Students of Diponegoro University. And thank you for the explanation that was so interesting. And I want to ask Miss Nara opinion. Some people define this gender equality also as feminism, and some of them make this gender equality issue sounds negative to other people who haven't aware about what is gender equality is. Even some, I could say oknum, make it sounds negative because it's not suitable with our culture, norms, and religion. In Miss Nara opinion, how to handle society negative perspective about this issue, and how far actually gender equality is. Is there any boundaries for how far we should take this issue? That is probably it's similar to Tasha question.
Okay, maybe you can have the next question first.
The next question, Gabriel.
Okay, thank you, Kak Chris, for the opportunity. Good afternoon, Ms. Nara. I'm Yuka from International Relations from University of Diponegoro. In your presentation, there was statement that among 159 countries, there are 11 countries that lead by women. Am I right?
Sorry? Can you repeat?
Okay. In your presentation, there was statement that among 159 countries, there are 11 countries that lead by women. Am I right?
Oh, the women head of states. Okay.
Yes. What I want to ask is, if in the future this number increase, say it from 11 to 20 or from 11 to 30, is this increase in number can really bring changes to can really bring positive changes to gender equality or social culture, or this number is just a number that means nothing and brings no changes to gender equality or to social culture? That's all I ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriel. So the next, Miss, for the next question.
Yes.
Gueshlin.
Okay, hi, good afternoon, Ms. Nara. Thank you for that beautifully explained matter. And now I'm Grace from International Relations of Diponegoro University. Would like to ask, as women, we are the agent of change, right? That we will do all the agenda of our feminism itself. And what do you think about the glorification of motherhood narrative, meaning that women are born to conceive, to give birth to our children, to like raise our children? What do you think? Let's take a look further on early 30s, where we are going to go into our marriage life. What do you think? How do we face our conservative parents, for example, because they told us you better not going to work because you should be a woman? And what do you think on that? How should we face our parents? How do like convince them so that we can pass this agenda? I think that's all. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for the excellent questions from all three of you. Very smart students here as participants. I'm very proud to be one of the speakers here. So, okay, yes, first on gender equality. For me, okay, I think different people can have different understanding on what is feminism or who is feminist. For me, I apply the broad sense of feminism. So for me, everyone who believes on gender equality between men and women are feminists. So if you believe on that, you are a feminist. What difference is that whether you are an activist or not? But just having the belief that you think there is gender equal, there should be gender equality between men and women, then you are a feminist. That okay. So and then I did mention that there are different spectrums of feminism. There are different perspectives of feminism and feminists. So what if you believe in gender equality, but you don't want to be considered as let's say, attacking the society or attacking your religion, then maybe you can learn these spectrums of feminism and consider which one that fits your own narrative, that fits your own values, your own norms, and try to apply it in your everyday life. So you don't have to follow all, all feminist values. You can just follow things that fits your personal values. And I think, as I mentioned to the previous speaker, even in our religions, there are different views of gender equality. So maybe we can also try to find those who have the perspective that we can accept, that feel comfort for us to believe. So that is the way for us to to be able to engage the norms of gender equality in our own family or maybe society, culture, and also perhaps even religion. So we don't have to clash everything. We can take the things that we can accept. So I think that's the first question. And then the second question from Gabrielle, the numbers. Yes, there are currently 11 head of states government, right? From 100, 11% female head of governments, or 22 out of 190. Of course, the number can be just the number. If you say if there is an increase of number, maybe we can also pay attention to how many of this percentage. Is it still under 30% or above for 30% or maybe above 50%? So the amount of number also affect. If it's just a small of number, maybe that's not enough. That's not enough to change the entire pillars of the nation, for instance. First, that's about the number itself. And then we also need to see whether these head of states, head of government, try to implement feminist policy in their country, whether they try to put quorum or quota on the number of their ministers, a quota on the number of female executives in companies, for instance. So their policy matters. So not only the number, but their policy. What I also find from my reading is that the existence of a female leader does not automatically change the perspective on gender equality in one country. So there has to be steps, there has to be policies implemented to change the perspective of gender equality in the society. Yes. However, I would also like to remind that I would say, in my personal opinion, that when you have a female leader, she will have bigger preference of applying a relatively feminist policy in their country compared to a male leaders. If that makes sense, because female leaders will have more empathy towards women's struggle or women's interests compared to the male leaders. Okay, but again, the leaders cannot work alone. They also need people around them to support the idea, whether it is their ministers or the politicians or the civil society or the people themselves. So the number matters, but the process below matters even more. So numbers matters, but it's not enough. Maybe that's the answer to your question, Gabriel. So the numbers won't automatically change the mindset or the progress happening in one country itself. There has to be more to be done. And then the third question, Grace Lynn, how to convince our parents Oh my, that's a very difficult question. So that's unfortunately still one of the concern, that gender equality is difficult to implement, because even in our family sphere, it is we don't have enough support. Yes. So what I could suggest is that do not do not confront your parent, but try to make them understand, especially the benefits of gender equality, the benefits of having women contribute to the economy of the family, for instance, right? You could support your spouse, for instance, and then you will also not be dependent to your spouse. So try to convince your parent, if I work in, if I have my own financial stability, then if anything happened, for God's sake, yeah, to my spouse or to my family, I would still have my I could still be dependent on myself. So that is probably something that you can convince your parents, and then you can also say that perhaps your spouse support you. So that's also important, right? And so in this connection, it is very important for you to find a partner who believes in gender equality. So let me say something rather personal, yeah. So my friend told me that once she had her lecturer, her professor at the university told her, you must find a feminist husband. And she was laughing about it. A feminist husband? Why? But then she got married, and she has a husband, and she has a career. Her husband has a career, and she experienced firsthand how important it is to have a feminist husband, or a husband who believes in gender equality. Because of what? Because her husband shares household chores with her. Her husband shares childcare with her. Her husband considers her as an equal partner. Her husband listens to what she say. Her voice matters. So this is something silly maybe at once, but in the long term, you will feel the benefit of having that kind of spouse, and having a spouse with that kind of perspective. So I guess that's the answers to the questions, if those are enough, maybe. Are there any additional questions?
Is that clearly enough? Gracelyn, Gabriel, and Salsabila?
Yes, that clear enough. Thank you, Ms. Nara.
Okay, thank you. So we have already wrapped all the questions, and so yeah, Ms. Nara, thank you once again, and maybe you can give the last statement before ending the session.
Yes. I guess my final remarks is that the gender equality agenda is for our own benefit, and we should all work collaboratively to promote this gender equality agenda. And I would also like to thank you to Undi for inviting me to be one of the speakers. I feel so honored to speak in front of very talented, very outspoken students here. And hopefully what I am discussing with you right now here can have more benefit for you in the long run, and for the gender equality agenda itself in the future. Thank you, Grace. Thank you, students.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Nora. So yeah, the final statement from me. Thank you, Ms. Nora, for the great materials, and also thanks to Ms. Cecil. She's raising us now, and we can see you in the session. And hopefully the participants can be the next young diplomat like what you did. As we know, Ms. Nora have a lot of experience in leading the organization and division, and I noticed Ms. Nora ever become the head of the program subdivision with regional organization at the Strategic Support Bureau for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and now she become at the first secretary. I believe Ms. Nara have already passed any difficulties when she will lead the organization among the men. It's the proof that women also can be the leader, and men also can be the leader, and we have the same seat, and we can cooperate and collaborate around the table together. if we still see many women still cannot support each other, and not only to the men, but also to the women. Example, if the cover, it is our homework to minimize dignity and change. When we want to speak, we can raise our voice or do our part in the backside. You can follow the OPTSHE that Nara created to support the women. And once again, thank you, Ms. Nara, and thank you to both participants. And thank you. See you in the next sessions. And Ms. Nara, you may leave the room, or you can take some of tea or coffee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Goodbye, everyone.
Ms. Nara, would you please stay for photo session?
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Where is the operator? Who is connected this session?
Okay, wait.
Okay.
This is for the first layer. 1, 2, 3. And for second layer. 1, 2, 3. Okay. This is the third layer. 1, 2, 3. And the fourth. 1, 2, 3. Okay, this is the last layer. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Goodbye, everyone. Maybe I will meet some of you at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in the future. Goodbye.
Thank you, Miss. Megan, maybe you can announce the time to come back with this meeting.
Sorry, Kak Grace, can you repeat it once again? I didn't hear it.
The time to repeat to come back to this meeting to all the participants.
Thank you all. You may leave the room. We will see you tomorrow, 11 a.m. GMT +7. Thank you.